I remember Michelle Obama saying if Trump won, women would suffer.
If we don't get this election right, your wife, your daughter, your mother, we as women will become collateral damage to your rage.
Trump's pretty much already president, so let's check in on Michelle.
Attention, everybody. We are full of joy and here today. So honored to have you.
Rumors continue to escalate for the Obamas. Hopefully they can settle it like men.
She went from First Lady to Netflix royalty, but now, Michelle Obama's empire is under fire. What happens when America's most polished icon gets roasted by Fox News' most savage voices? This isn't just commentary, it's a take. And trust me, you haven't heard Michelle dragged like this before. Stay with me because by the end, even her green smoothies won't be able to save her.
Michelle Obama surprised fans on our new podcast by saying her pet peeve about her husband is that he's chronically late. For example, we're still waiting on him to admit he's from Kenya. And as for Barack's pet peeve about Michelle, he's mad that she keeps leaving the toilet seat up. When she cleans it! When she cleans it!
The chatter surrounding the Obamas is only getting louder, and if it keeps building like this, someone's going to have to step up and end the drama head-on. Cue the music because what just happened to Michelle Obama wasn't on anyone's bingo card. Once celebrated as the beacon of inspiration and kale-loving wellness, Michelle found herself caught in a media crossfire between Jesse Waters and Greg Gutfeld. Waters delivered his trademark smirk, while Gutfeld unleashed sarcasm like it was policy. Meanwhile, Michelle's expression said it all like her gym session and book signing had been cancelled at once. But the real headline here. What did they say that rattled her image so hard it started to fall apart like a rushed talk? Show script. Buckle up, this is one of those moments that begs for a front row seat and a bucket of extra salty popcorn.
Obama looks proud of her country again, which is weird because Biden's about to turn the White House over to Hitler. Everybody should be scared, right? At the Obama house, it's Christmas as usual. The only thing keeping Michelle up at night is what to stuff in Barack's stocking.
Who's the hardest to shop for?
He is. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, he's just a boy, you know? I mean, he just doesn't do much. He golfs, and there's only so many golf balls you can get a dude.
Right.
I'm trying to, like, get him clothes that he wouldn't buy, you know?
Okay.
Because he's also cheap.
Well, who is the best gift giver out of you guys?
Probably me.
Okay.
You know, I think I am because I'm actually paying attention to everyone.
Ah,
you know?
that is the
I'm,
trick.
like, listening.
Michelle just said her husband's cheap, doesn't listen, and chases balls all day.
Asterisk, you'd think Michelle Obama envisioned post-White House life as a serene stroll through bestsellers, streaming deals, and high society brunches where avocado toast reigns supreme and the conversations rarely leave surface level. But apparently, Jesse Waters and Greg Gutfeld didn't get that memo. Instead, they clocked in like men on a mission and unleashed a media blitz aimed right at the former First Lady. It was all served with a smileous, technically polite, but it had the same energy as a smug cat proudly dropping a dead bird at your doorstep. The message wasn't screamed, but it was loud. Michelle's peaceful retreat was suddenly interrupted by a storm she likely never saw coming.
Michelle thinks American men suck.
Let me warn you, your rage does not exist in a vacuum. If we don't get this election right, your wife, your daughter, your mother, we as women will become collateral damage to your rage. To the women listening, we have every right to demand that the men in our lives do better by us. We have to use our voices to make these choices clear to the men that we love. Our lives are worth more than their anger and disappointment.
What's that pitter-patter sound I'm hearing in the background? It's the footsteps of Barack running to vote.
Quick pause. If you're into this deep dive, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Now, back to business. Things really kicked off when Michelle stepped into the spotlight, doing what she's known for. delivering feel-good wisdom wrapped in vague metaphors, all while rocking a $3,000 outfit that's supposed to scream just like you. Yes, she's touring again because, apparently, there's still more to unpack about her Chicago upbringing, those sculpted arms, and the reluctant journey that somehow led her to become America's most polished political influencer. Her brand is equal parts nostalgia and Instagram-filtered empowerment. But somewhere between the book pages and inspirational quotes, Michelle dropped a bombshell. She's got a bone to pick with American men. And that's when things started to spiral.
Like, who's consulting them on this stuff?
Yeah. It's
a woman, probably, also.
It's a gay man. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. Tyrus, the men who are the real danger aren't the criminals or the illegal aliens. It's the guys that don't vote the way you want them to.
The ignorance that she projected as if the men are the only ones angry in the house.
Jesse Waters didn't tiptoe into this one. He came in swinging, wrapping sharp criticism in a cloak of political commentary. It felt like he'd been waiting for years to clap back at Michelle Obama's iconic "when they go low, we go high" mantra, interpreting it as, "when they attack us, we make Netflix shows." She spoke dramatically about dictatorships and women's futures, yet requested not to be asked about politics during interviews. Instead, she limited questions to her book, her Netflix series, and her new juice line, turning public discourse into a well-branded product pitch. Jesse, unfazed, leaned back and threw his first punch, mocking the disconnect by pointing out Michelle's lavish life in Martha's Vineyard, sipping imported nut butters while reminiscing about gas prices. In 2007, that was just the opening round. Jesse continued by dissecting Michelle's recent speech about democracy's fragility, laughing at the contradiction how democracy was apparently strong under Barack's presidency but now teetering because she's no longer in control. Greg Gutfeld joined in with his trademark sarcasm, likening Michelle's speeches to self-help audiobooks on private jets, full of vague platitudes that sound deep but say little. He said her tone resembles a fortune cookie podcast. And as the roast gained steam, he mocked her evolution from reluctant first lady to a polished political influencer with better biceps than Oprah. With her presence everywhere from award shows to documentaries, joked she's probably preparing to narrate a slow-motion glacier meltdown next. They weren't done. Greg took aim at Michelle's stance on men, sarcastically suggesting that the real threat isn't crime or immigration but men who don't vote the way she wants. Jesse brought the focus back to Michelle's 2020 election commentary and accused her of teasing a presidential run despite claiming otherwise. With every signbook launches, nationwide tours, democracy warnings, dressed in high-end blouses, he argued she was doing everything except filing paperwork. They even joked about a musical biopic where Michelle plays herself and Barack is a CGI cameo. According to Greg, if Michelle ever did run, her slogan would likely be "reluctantly yours" or "still better than Joe." They suggested that, while she claims she doesn't want the job, she's been building the most carefully branded presidential image since JFK's Camelot. Jesse didn't stop there. He pointed out that Michelle, with a following stronger than many religions, uses her platform not for change but to sell books about becoming what? Greg answered, "America's guilt-tripping mom." They painted her as the human embodiment of an Instagram filter, adored by media outlets who treat her like she invented vegetables. Naturally, this brought them to her school lunch campaign, which Jesse mocked as an overhyped war on childhood obesity, while Michelle proudly planted vegetables behind the White House. Kids were left choking down kale sticks and begging for the return of pizza. Michelle's podcast became another punchline. Despite all the promotional efforts, the early episodes underperformed, pulling only a few thousand views, many of which were likely just bored producers. Even her stories about Barack's quirks failed to land. She talked about his struggles with being on time or connecting with house guests, while Greg brought the conversation back to her infamous school lunch changes, calling them the destruction of Taco Tuesdays. At that point, the roast transitioned from her policies to her entire curated persona, the Michelle Obama that appears on cue every few years like a royal unveiling, complete with new branding and softer lighting. Jesse zeroed in on her tendency to speak about hardship, yet never acknowledge the privilege that came with it: book deals, jet rides, luxury contracts. What once sounded like adversity now resembled a business model. Greg agreed wholeheartedly. calling her brand a Marvel-style franchise of inspirational struggle. With sequels released regularly and usually ghost-written, they circled back to her Constitution commentary, with Jessie mocking how the document only seems fragile when it threatens to elect someone she dislikes. Greg added that Michelle has no issue quoting the Founding Fathers, unless they contradict her agenda. Their argument was that Michelle's version of democracy works only when her side wins. Things took a historical turn as they brought up Barack Obama's defense of Hillary Clinton, blaming sexism for her failed presidential run. Jessie pointed out the irony, this coming from the man who leapfrogged Hillary in 2008. If a transgender Native American had run, he joked, both of them would have been out of luck. He argued that when political campaigns crumble, the scapegoat becomes patriarchy. Then came the roast of Michelle's Netflix content. Greg mocked her for producing dramatic documentaries where she gazes into the horizon, pondering life's big questions while making broccoli sound like a revolutionary weapon. Jessie chimed in, "No, Michelle, broccoli can't save the world." From there, the hypocrisy allegations escalated. Jessie highlighted Michelle's tendency to speak about climate change while flying private, and Greg attacked her elitist posture. While she insists she's not political, nearly every comment she makes is a loaded statement. He poked fun at her famous line about going high, saying it fits perfectly since she lives on a literal hilltop estate. Their critique turned relentless, but they still had more ammunition. They tore into her emotional appeals about the 2024 election, claiming she feigns fear about America's future while enjoying a lifestyle more secure than a Bond villain. Greg joked that pretending to fear a red hat in Iowa felt laughably out of touch, while Jessie quipped that it's hard to lose hope when your biggest worry is whether your assistant remembered the gluten-free water. They even dragged Barack back into the spotlight, with Michelle revealing that he's often disengaged in social settings, leaving her to carry the weight of emotional connections. Greg used that to highlight the absurdity of portraying Michelle as carrying America's emotional burdens, when in reality, her hardest task might be choosing which silk blouse matches her mood. They pointed out a recent poll showing that, hypothetically, Trump would beat her 47% to 44%, joking that the very students she subjected to kale are now voting. Jessie added that every few weeks Michelle drops a new vague message about unity or listening, which Greg compared to reading scented candle slogans aloud. Their satire then turned toward her activism as a whole. Greg claimed it was less about genuine change and more about branding Michelle as mother of the nation, but only from a six-figure kitchen while sipping a smoothie that costs more than rent. Jessie piled on, saying you can't call yourself a revolutionary when every protest includes a PR team and a social media assistant. They accused her of hijacking every national moment, whether it's a tragedy or an election, and somehow turning it into a Michelle Obama moment. Greg remarked that even a butterfly landing on a ballot box becomes a poem in Michelle's hands, and the media laps it up like gospel, with every breath framed in metaphorical gold. That, they claimed, was the core issue, not her wealth, not her voice, but her media immunity. She's reached icon status so untouchable that even silence gets applause. Jessie and Greg saw their critique as a kind of public service, determined to drag her down from that polished pedestal. They said Michelle is having her Hillary moment. Barack had his run, and now she wants the spotlight. With Netflix specials, new books, and even Oprah cosigns, Michelle is announcing her reign. But if she truly wants to lead America's conscience, they argued she'd have to ditch the echo chamber and acknowledge that not every voter quotes Brene Brown over brunch.
Michelle is having her Hillary moment. Barry had his 8 years, so Michelle's demanding her time to shine. Michelle's on a roll, and now she's center stage.
The woman who needs no introduction for real, Michelle Obama!
We have to be honest about real marriage and the work that it takes to build a life with another person. It's like, oh, hashtag relationship goals. And I'm like, I was mad at him in that picture.
Michelle has a Netflix special with Oprah. And when Oprah taps you, that means it's your time. The Obamas know that. It was Oprah who was the first big name to support Barry's run for the White House. So what does this mean? Well, for one, it means Michelle has another book, and she wants the world to know it's her world now.
The message couldn't have been more direct, even if it had been written in skywriting over the Capitol. While mainstream media continues to gush over Michelle Obama's kale campaigns, self-love podcasts, and nostalgia-laced memoir tours, commentators like Jesse Waters and Greg Gutfeld have taken a scalpel to her public image. Slicing through the glossy branding with brutal precision, they've approached the former First Lady not as a cultural icon, but as a calculated political brand, one that's been meticulously maintained for over a decade. From her speeches that sound more like TED Talks than town halls, to her book tours that feel more like spiritual retreats for suburban moms, the Obama machine has thrived on relatability. But this recent takedown was more than political punditry, was a cultural audit. Whether Michelle is actually eyeing a presidential run, testing the waters for higher office, or simply padding her post-White House portfolio with sprawling real estate investments like she's playing her own private game of Monopoly, one thing is becoming clear: her image, once seen as bulletproof, is showing cracks. Waters and Gutfeld didn't just throw insults, they questioned the authenticity of her rise, the true nature of her public outreach, and the sincerity behind the idea that Michelle is somehow still one of us. They painted her less as the voice of the people and more as a polished avatar of elite liberalism. One who sips organic tea in multi-million-dollar homes while preaching about struggle. And what makes this even more damaging is that these critiques didn't come from fringe corners, they aired in prime time, beamed into millions of homes, and echoed through a political landscape that's growing increasingly skeptical of curated authenticity. If Michelle Obama was genuinely entertaining the idea of stepping back into the political arena, this rhetorical ambush might have given her pause, because the truth is, the American public isn't as easily swayed by inspirational anecdotes and designer wardrobes as it once was. We've entered a new era, one where even the most beloved public figures are being re-examined under harsh lighting. And no matter how powerful the Obama name once was, it's now subject to the same scrutiny, satire, and skepticism that the rest of the political class faces. Her narrative, once framed as a beacon of hope, now risks sounding like another scripted performance from the stage of American celebrity politics. This wasn't just a roast, it was a calculated warning shot. And for someone who's built an empire on being America's favorite big sister, this kind of cultural whiplash could very well send her entire relatable national icon routine back to the strategy room.